So we're going down the rabbit hole of being two musicians and this is kind of an interesting thing because what we're talking about is technology, right? And
Yeah, that's exactly it.
you have this analog idea, this debate of analog versus digital. And it's really it all goes down to that old fable of John Henry, right? Who was fighting. You remember that?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the John Henry? So
That's
John
John Henry's
Henry,
Babe the Ox, right? Is that what that is?
yeah, no, 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 no. I
No,
think
that's
that's Blue. But John Henry was fighting against. He didn't want to lose his job. He was a digger. He would dig tunnels, and so there was a machine that would also dig tunnels. And the fable was, let's see who would win the race. And so they
yeah.
both were digging the tunnel separately. And in the end, John Henry, big muscular guy, won. But the caveat was he died at the end of the fable. So it was really like this whole idea has been something, that's been since industrialization has been at the forefront because we came from this society of, agrarian society where it was all human labor, and then craft. We had craft, like where you had someone would make leather goods, right? And then it was like, well, we going to use machine to make leather goods? Dude, I just listened to one of the coolest podcasts ever on LVMH. And LVMH is Louis Vuitton, Hermes. They're like
Yeah.
the biggest brand in the
Biggest
world, right?
luxury conglomerate in the world. Everything that's expensive is under them.
Billions. And
Yep.
the president was talking about how within Hermes, they still use hand stitching to make those bags. Those Birkin bags are, and I didn't know anything about all this, but now I do. And so what he was talking about is he's like, still machines can't yet do the kind of stitching that we can hand do. And that's why
At
the
the
bags
highest
are,
level.
but how close are
Yeah.
we to where that's going to be a thing, right?
Well, I mean, I
So
think what we were talking about before with the guitar amps and stuff and like the analog versus digital, like in that realm, because I've had tons of conversations about that and from having a studio and everything and I
yeah,
know
and
people
and
that like
so just so people
swear.
know, you own a studio and you're a musician and you're a recording professional
Yep.
musician who puts out things, right? And that's kind of like what we're
Yep.
talking about.
Yep. Yep. And I know people that like will swear by like, you need to have like this analog desk that has like 8,000 knobs and then you and I were just talking about amplifiers and my thing is this is that like my personal preference because of my personality and who I am and the way that I work has mostly been digital because digital is gets me to the point of creativity faster. There's less there's
Mm.
less there's less things that you have to do. But I'm not one of those people that is like, well, digital is better than analog. It's better for me because
Yeah.
I'm an ADD freak and I'm all over the place and like where I need to get to is I need to get to that moment of stillness to where I could be underneath while the satellite is hovering overhead and I could make that connection and the song comes through or the part comes through and I make the thing. And so that's why I leaned more towards digital than I do analog. But there are other people that like have the personality of like, the guy's got one pedal, he's got one amp. This is his sound. He's perfected that sound. His tone always sounds exactly like that. And there's something to be said for that too. There's something to be said for that, like the craft of, I think that's similar to the stitching of the Birkin bag. You know what I mean? Like it's like, this is their thing. That's what they do. That's all they do. And they know how to do that better than anybody else. So I really think, you know, not talking about logistics, not talking about money, not talking about scalability, but just talking about preference in terms of creativity. I think whatever gets you to the spot faster and more authentic is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, what is it that inspires you and gets you there? I remember one of the best documentaries that I've ever seen, and it was with Francis Ford Coppola. I think his wife made it on the making of Apocalypse Now. Have you ever seen it? It was called Heart of Darkness.
I've
And
I've never seen Apocalypse Now, if I'm being honest. I've never seen Apocalypse Now. Yeah, I know.
so the story of Apocalypse Now, it's amazing.
I've never
So
seen Full Metal
Joe
Jacket either.
Uh, Apocalypse Now is actually very different because Apocalypse
Okay.
Now is based on a novel by Joseph Conrad called Heart of Darkness. And it's a story set, in like the 1800s in which a man goes, at that time, Americans, and the English were intrigued by Africa, right? We didn't know much about
Hmm.
Africa. There were so many stories about Africa. Are there cannibals there? Are there riches? Are there lost cities? It was something that
Sure.
captured the imagination, like of our society, right? Of Western society. And so Joseph Conrad wrote a book about a man who goes up the river and encounters various things. And it's actually a journey inward where he goes and he encounters like, the dark shadow of his soul, right? And so the question was, when Francis Ford Coppola was in film school back in the late 60s, was could this book from the 1800s ever be adapted? It's been tried many, many, many times. And so that was always in his mind. And so after he made all that money with The Godfather, he also backed George Lucas in American Graffiti, and he took all his money. He's like, you know, I'm making this book, adapting it into a novel, and I'm gonna do it instead of Africa. I'm gonna do it in Vietnam, and so my character is gonna go up the river, and he is gonna encounter different parts of, really metaphorically, his own darkness of his soul until he reaches the end, and he reaches like Colonel Kurtz, I think his name was, who was played by
That's
Marlon
Marlon
Brando.
Brando, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yep.
is mind blowing. But what's more mind blowing is his it's really a very meta story because Francis Ford Coppola had this obsession with going up and filming this novel, this adaptation. In essence, he went through the darkness of his own soul and had a complete mental breakdown on the
Wow.
filming of the movie. It took years. He went pretty much bankrupt. They couldn't get anything filmed. Everybody there, they built all these crazy sets. A typhoon hit and destroyed everything, right? No insurance, it's gone. They lost everything, had to start over. Everyone, this is in the early 70s. Dennis Hopper, Martin Sheen. Dude, Dennis Hopper is like one of the lead actors. He's eating LSD all the time, tripping out of his mind. Lawrence Fishburne is there. They're all tripping out of their minds all the time. Martin Sheen in the opening scene is filming this like Tai Chi Bruce Lee thing. Who knows what, I don't know what kind of drugs, or if he was on drugs or not, but
Yeah.
he has a fucking heart attack during the filming of the scene and has to be
Really?
hospitalized. Marlon Brando shows up, okay?
Who was already
He's
fucking out of his mind, right?
out of his mind. He's 200 pounds overweight, right?
Yeah.
Head shaved bald, has all these notes on the script on how he wants it to change. And guess what? He never read a page of it.
That's amazing.
Read a page. So they
amazing.
finally get to the point where they're filming this scene at the end with the dark shadow that is Marlon Brando, and he doesn't know a single line from the movie. So he's in the scene with Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen's father,
And he's just
and
improvising.
no, he makes Martin Sheen wear post-it notes all over his face
Oh
so
wow.
he can read his lines.
Oh my god.
And Francis
That's
Ford Coppola the whole time is like absolutely suicidal. He's talking about it because his wife is filming a documentary the whole time, and it's called Heart of Darkness. And it's the greatest, if you're an artist, you're just like, I get it. I get it. I see where my soul resides. I was talking about this with someone yesterday. I was like, there comes if you're an artist, like we feel so much alienation at times from society, like because we don't fit in, You don't fit in. You're an artist. You have this need to express,
and
and
there's
no one
such a
else
shame
understands it.
thing. Yeah, and
Yes.
it comes from a weird dark place and stuff like because it's it like it's funny. It's like I do what I do and I've been doing it for so long and I built this company, I have a studio and I've built these relationships with other people and I'm pushing forward, with this artistic life, this musical life. But like I don't talk about it. I don't I don't I don't promote myself and I'm a I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, like all I do is promote the shit that I'm working on and I'm looking to build relationships and but that part of me, like there's this incredible like crystallized insecurity that's just there to where like at any given moment, I don't know like if you want to call it like imposter syndrome or like but it's such a weird thing. Like I joke around with like my partner in production, the guy that I work with, and we'll be doing our thing. And like at any given moment, I'll just be like, yeah, right now I'm having like this thought in my head to where like I should just do something else because I fucking suck. And like why,
No.
like why am I even doing this? Like, do me a favor, dude. Tell me that I'm good at this. You know what I mean? And it just creeps up out of nowhere. And I could only imagine a situation like Francis Ford Coppola where he's got people investing millions of dollars into him. He
It
just
was all
had a
him. It
success.
was all him.
He's in all
He's
on him. He's
bankrupt.
in Vietnam.
His
People are
kids are
fucking
there.
doing yeah. He's all in and he's probably like I could like while obviously I've never been in a situation of that scale, I could see how that would make you suicidal because it's like you're fighting every demon that exists in regards to how you view yourself and like you're already, head in the clouds, dreaming big dreams, philosophical thoughts. Nobody's like that. Nobody, you know what I mean? Most people, like, that's just not. And you're like, no, yeah. No, I'm going to take your few $1,000,000 and we're going to do it. And, and then, like, are people going to like this? Are people going to say that I'm good? Are people going to connect? Oh, man, that's insane. I gotta watch the movie and then I got to watch the documentary.
It's amazing. It is about the artist's life. And when you have that thing that we have, I'm like that. It's crazy, where you could sit for hours and hours on your craft. For me, writing, you know, it's like days on end and months on end, years on end. And are people going to connect with it? Are people going to like it? And if they do, then what does that even mean? Because then it goes away and you got to start all over again.
Well, and
It
it's like
never
this
goes.
weird
It's
validation.
insatiable.
It is insatiable. And it's this weird thing to where, like, you want people to tell you that you're good. And like but it's subconscious. It's subconscious. It's not like logically, like I've been doing what I've been doing for I don't know, like decades. Like since I started playing guitar when I was 8. Um so like my logical mind knows that like I'm good at making music. I've been doing it for my whole life and like yeah, I know how to do this. I'm good at it. There are a lot of people that can't do it. But this emotional version that's like wants the validation. It wants to be like, it's constantly seeking and then when I get it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just, I keep it cool. I'm, just trying to do my thing. I'm trying
You get
to
it,
be
and
like,
then it
yeah,
goes away though, and then
so
you
weird.
start all over. You start all over. I was telling someone, I'm like, Kurt Cobain, at the end of the day, ended up killing himself. I mean,
Yep.
it's a it's a demon almost, and you just live it, and you have to try and make peace with it. Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, it's Chris Cornell killed himself. He's worth $60 million.
And he was
It's
and he was
it's
in his he was in his 50s. I mean, you would think that like by
already the
then,
most famous,
yeah,
rock
conquered all of
star,
the accolades, as much validation
Soundgarden,
as you could.
Audio Slave,
People
all of it.
people would say voice of a generation, money, everything, and yet he
Family,
couldn't live with him. Couldn't live with
couldn't
himself.
couldn't live with that demon that is in that subconscious, to where it's very interesting because we all have, so many of us have that within the psyche, and it's like, what do you do to satisfy it today? So like yesterday, I was telling my daughter, we were walking to the store this morning, and I was like, man, I had a rough day yesterday, man. I was depressed. I was like, fuck, shit, was because I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to be leaving her. I'm going to be leaving my granddaughter. And it was like 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock. And I was like, I meditated, and I realized, oh shit, you know what? I haven't gone to the gym or done anything today. It's like that simple, right?
Mm.
I haven't played guitar, haven't sat down and wrote, I haven't gone to the gym. So I went to the gym, I lifted, then I did jujitsu, and then I walked through London for like 5 miles to get home. And I got home and I felt so great. And I was like, I just needed to exercise it. But going back to what we're talking about, it's an everyday thing. I wake up the next day, I got to do it all over again,
It's there.
all
It's
over
always
again.
like
It
there. It's
doesn't
always like,
matter.
no. Yeah, yeah.
You got to get back to that Zen place, back to that Zen place. Get back to it's such a weird life,
But
man.
it is, and what's so interesting to me is that like, there are people that have like, like what you and I are talking about. It's a similar brand. We relate to, but like other people, like they have it differently, and like theirs is, you know what I mean. Like everybody's got some version of this, but it comes in different shapes and sizes, and that's what's very interesting to me.
We're human, we're all human, and we have to understand that we're gonna have that, and you're gonna be like, we have to figure out. That's kind of like part of what the podcast is about, is like, you got to figure out a way to make peace with it, man. Vitruvian, man. It's like, and we're as humans, it's always going to be shifting, and it's always going to be, and this goes back to our earlier point. So in the documentary Heart of Darkness, what he says at the end is, it was so prescient. He's like, this was one of the hardest experiences of my life. He said, but in the future, what's going to happen, I can see it. Dude, it's one of the most amazing things you've ever heard. He said, in the future, a kid is going to have the technology to do everything that I've done with filming and all in their backyard, and editing and all that in their house. What's taken
Coppola
me,
said that in the 70s.
yep,
Wow,
I
that's
know, I know.
that's
And
amazing.
so that goes back to what you were saying about digital versus analog. What is it that gets you to that place, you know, to where you can immediately start creating? Because right now, I'm a photographer also, and now you got a situation where with the phones, where you can take great photos. I remember I shot a sequence of Mike Bisping and Jason Perillo training at Ruka, and I was like, you know what, I was about to shoot it on my big medium format camera, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna see if I could shoot this on like an iPhone 8 or 7, and
Yeah,
see if anybody knows the difference, because my eye is the same. I see what I
sure.
see. It doesn't matter if it's, of course, the lens is better. I've got, analog lenses and all that shit. dude, I shot it, touched it up, all that black and white. No one even knew. All anybody said at Vice Media was, damn, those are some great shots.
It's amazing.
Right. And that's what Coppola was talking about. He was like, you know, someday you're going to be able to, and and what he was really saying is, why in the world would you want to be shooting on these big film canisters with these big, film with these big cameras and this crew and all this when you could just do it yourself? Why? Why
Well,
would
because
you?
the tools are important, but like it's the story, it's the idea, it's the point of view, and you don't need anything to have those things. You don't need the tools to have a point of view. You don't need, technology to have something to say. The technology and the tools will help you put it over, but like when people over obsess about the tools, it's a mistake. It's like you got to start from the source. If the source is pure, it's going to come out one way or the
If
other. But if
Yeah, if you have a good story or you have a good song, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Does it
I
really is
100%. I knew a guy who used to say, like, if you have a song and it sounds, and like if you play a song on an acoustic guitar and sing, or play it on a piano, and on those basic levels to where it's just one instrument, either an acoustic piano or an acoustic guitar, and one vocal, right there that you have a song. You can produce it up. You can produce it, and you could add, instrumentation, and you could do all the shit you want. But from that very basic place if the song is there from that. And like
I've
that's
heard
how
I've
you
heard
know.
Rick Rubin say that many, many times where he's like, there have been handfuls of times where an artist has recorded something in their bedroom on a 4-track or an 8-track or whatever it is. They bring it in, we redo it, we do it, and at the end of weeks
Never as good.
with professional musicians, we just revert back to that original recording. And I
Yep.
think maybe Black Hole Sun from Soundgarden was done that way, and I know that um Something in the Way on Nirvana was done that way also, where they just stripped everything away. Where
I
they're
believe
just
that.
like, stop. I think it was Something in the Way on Nevermind. Kurt finally they were just like, dude, just get he got the guitar, I think, acoustic guitar, and laid it in a dark room and just sang it with no one else there, and that was it. Just
Yep.
basic as it gets, and then they overlaid like a cello, and that was it.
All the
Great song.
machines, all the machines are supposed to do is just capture the emotion. That's it.
That's it. That's
It's
it.
all it's
That's
all
it.
they're supposed to do. They're just there to capture the emotion. If the emotion is not pure and organic, it doesn't matter. If your microphone cost $1 billion, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think back to, like technology and all that, there's a certain beauty in analog that, like, whether it's developing, because I've done that before, I've got, and it's beautiful when I shoot it, is when I shoot old film on an old film camera. It is absolutely stunning, and I've developed it myself. There's something about the way that it captures the light, you know. But if it was my job, to be like a wedding photographer, dude, I'm gonna be there trying to get as much digital. I'm gonna try and get as much as I can
Yeah,
to
it's workflow.
capture, then yeah, for workflow, you know. But there is something cool about just taking photos, in film and then developing it yourself. There is a beauty to that. There is a
No, I
beauty.
mean, I think what's dope about analog is like analog's a flavor. So like if you like it's like
Hmm.
if you're cooking and you need like a white wine and butter sauce, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what makes the dish the thing. That's what analog's like. Like if you're going to use a specific amp or you're going to use a specific camera, it's like you're going for that flavor, and that tool, that piece of technology is going to provide you with that flavor. That is a very powerful thing in regards to analog, and that's across the board.
Yeah. So back to what we were talking about, amps, and how uh I just got this boutique, like high end, old school, called Silk Tone amp. one of the so I started researching like old like 40s Class A single-ended amps, and I saw a an interview with a big time producer, a guitar player and producer in Nashville, and this is what he does. And he's like giving a rig breakdown of all the different amps that he's got. You would love this, man. And he's like, he finally points to one little amp. He goes, "That's the amp that I get 95% of everything on. It's this
Mm.
big.
Yeah.
It's this big. It's got one tube in it. It's Class A. It's 5 watts. It's a
Yep.
Fender Champ." He goes,
Yep.
"It's easy to mic. It doesn't bleed anywhere else. It gets one sound and it gets that sound perfect.
Yeah.
Nothing compares to it, but it's easy
Yep.
to record too, you know?"
Yep.
So it was like, ah, man, it's so funny. You've got this constant push pull, and
Always, man. But maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. Maybe it's not.
I
If
don't.
it was easy, maybe the good shit wouldn't flow. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of like what where we're getting with AI too, because I think that whole John Henry, metaphor of, what is going to be how are we going to react when we're using technology to the point to where it's creating things for us. Like, in other words, when I am saying, okay, give me a drum beat, right? So I'm not a drummer, right? I wish I was a drummer. I'm like you. I've been playing guitar since I was 11 years old.
Yeah, I can't
And
play the kit either. I can
I wish
program
I
drums with
could, man.
I can do it with my fingers, but I
I
can't.
can't even do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even do that. I'm terrible. So, what is it when I can say into an AI, where I can give it a prompt like, okay, I want to have an analog drum beat at 100 beats per minute. I want it
Yeah.
in the vein of something
Yeah.
Buddy Rich, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I
Yep.
want it to play like this, and then it gives it to me instantaneously. And then I go, no, make it a little more cymbals and this and this. All of a sudden,
Yep.
I don't need a drummer anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh, we haven't needed drummers in a long time. I mean, the way like just tech in general, like with loops, and I use an
I know.
MPC. Like and that for me opened up
Me too.
the whole realm of songwriting, because it's like when you would like try to write with somebody else, unless you had a perfect connection with that drummer, unless that it was really there, it would be hard to write. But then you
Yeah.
start writing the loops and it's like, oh wow. Then I bring the drummer in, I'm like, I want you to do this.
Yeah, you've already shown him that.
Yep. Yep.
It's crazy because, rap has already gone through this.
Oh yeah.
They've been dealing with. That's what a producer. I was watching this thing on documentary on Kanye, and really
Amazing
understanding.
documentary, right?
Whew, man, he is.
Amazing documentary.
And just like watching, like, you want to talk about an art, crazy lunatic
Genius.
artist, like, genius, but a lunatic, but
Definitely.
but but a genius. Got both, they come together. But for to realize, wait a minute, that's what a producer's doing. A rap producer is saying, I'm taking a sample of this, I'm programming this, I'm taking a sample of this horn section, and I'm like, where are the musicians? Like, they've already done to music what we're talking about AI doing
To everything.
to everything. I mean, the
Yeah.
next step is, already they did it. I remember I heard wasn't there a lawsuit last year? Someone had taken a Drake. They just took a good producer, took AI and fed in, prompts of what he wanted the song and all this to be. And even the voice came back and it was like Drake, I think it
Yeah.
was. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it became a viral sensation.
It's wild. It's wild. It's totally wild. I don't like I have friends who are like so like, up in arms over it, and they're like, it's gonna destroy, for musicians and blah blah blah. And like I don't even like my whole thing is like I'm just
It's
gonna keep
already
writing.
doing it though.
Yeah.
If you're talking about all the last 30 years, with drum machines that we've had for 40, 50 years, right?
Yeah.
It's already happened. That's work that could have went to real musicians.
I'm like, you know what, man? I'm just going to keep using this shit as it comes, and I'm going to keep making music, and I'm going to keep digging on that shit because, like, what else am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to ride the wave and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point in being a little bitch about it? You know, what's the point in, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to,
Well,
what are you going to do?
I think it's the John Henry thing where it's like, dude, you better quit trying to fight that machine and get behind it and
Use
use
it.
it. Use it to make your work easier
Yeah.
and better. And I
But it's
think
once
that's,
again, you got to have the point of view. You got to have the source material. You got to have the story. You got to have the song. Focus on that.
dude, I just saw this video, man. Did I send this to you? I don't remember if I sent it to you, but it was one of Peter Thiel or another really, 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 really forward thinking, like venture capitalist talking about how, you know what? If you don't like Thread or X, then just go to your AI and tell it to recreate the X app. It'll code it for you. It'll code 100 lines of code, 100 million lines of code instantly.
Wow.
100 million lines of code instantly, right?
That's so
Just tell
crazy.
it to recreate the app, okay? And then just tell it to duplicate the accounts of all the people that are already on X. So now you've got the exact same network. You call it Y, because AI can do that.
Yeah.
And now you create your own rules for those people to post on there. Now you've got your own thing. And he was making the point. He's like, that's how close we are to something like that happening. The days of, I don't think we're realizing that even the days of the tech titans are coming to an end. Because
Interesting.
before it was like, is Mark Zuckerberg, he's a great coder, he's this. Those days are coming to an end, man. You're going to be
Yeah,
able
you
to
just got to
say,
prompt.
I just want, okay, what I'm going to do, I don't want to post to Instagram anymore. I want my own Instagram. Here, tell the AI, it'll recreate Instagram. It'll recreate all the accounts. People will just log into it. You'll have, 10, 100 million users. It's like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, it's fucking
It's unbelievable.
crazy what we're on the cusp of, right?
I'm
It's going
interested to
to
see how,
disrupt everything.
I'm interested to see how it emerges, like in like the emerging markets. Like, I go to the Dominican Republic all the time, and like in Latin America, South America, like because they're still much further behind in terms of like the way that they work. Things are still very physical, manual. Um,
Oh, yeah.
like I'm curious to see how it lands, there, and what's their trajectory in those cultures.
You know, we're facing right now a serious in this country. We have a serious like housing crisis, right? And I
Hmm.
work in development. I'm a certified general contractor, and I'm always on like the idea of and looking like how do we conquer that? How do we build? There's no reason for us to not have more housing. We have government constraints. We need to get rid of the red tape for creating more housing, obviously. Once we do that, how can we build housing more quickly, maybe 3D printing, whatever it is, and get it out there and get it done to where it's not such a constraint? And so you say, like, we have these issues like in the emerging markets, we're still dealing with that kind of shit here. And that
Yeah,
housing is one of the most critical problems that we have. People cannot afford, young people cannot afford houses, and
yeah,
that's
it's
crazy.
great right now. It's
It's fucked
crazy.
up. It's fucked up. Yeah, it's not cool. It used to be where every American could buy a house, like that, qualify. It's too ridiculous. So clearly we need more supply. We also, at the same time, I think the biggest issue that we're facing right now, that I think hopefully we're close to getting to is energy. Once we got free, clean energy, not free, but maybe close to free, we're everything's gonna do this. Boom. That's the constraint. It'll be gone. Because once we have energy, free, almost free energy, we'll be able to process greenhouse gases. We'll be able to desalinate water. We'll be the constraint on all of these things is energy. It's
Yeah.
energy. We only have so much energy. Once we crack fusion, hopefully AI is going to help us crack fusion, get all that shit done, and so
Wild West, man, all over again.
we're so close. We're so close. Anyways, I'm gonna switch gears. I'm in London right now with my daughter and granddaughter. It's amazing. I love London's one of my favorite cities in the world. It's so great. And what I love about it is I've been able to get some amazing jiu-jitsu training in. It's like my
Yeah, I've been
second gym
seeing it.
here is London Grapple. Yeah. So I've been getting a lot of training there with a guy named Ross Nichols. And while I was here, I was able to watch CJI. What did you think?
Dude, you want to hear some crazy shit? I saw none of it. I saw none of CJI. I saw none of ADCC. I was running around with my kids. I had like a whole bunch of stuff like that I was doing. I got that. I mean, I saw highlights like on Instagram, but I did not get to see any of it live at all.
Dude,
I know.
the only thing worth talking about is one match, and that is the match between Cade Rotolo and Andrew Tackett was
I
the
saw
greatest jiu-jitsu match I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, everybody's
Ever.
talking about that. Everybody's talking about that.
Bro, you got to watch
did
it.
See, yeah, it was like Scramble City, right? It was like insane scrambles back and forth the whole time.
Gosh.
Pretty cool. Who won? Rotolo won or Tackett? No, Tackett won, right?
No, Cade won.
Cade won.
Cade Rotolo. Okay. And then he went on and fought Levi in the final. And it was amazing. And a lot of people were giving Levi shit because he's a guard puller. I get it. You want to have more exciting. But I'm a guard player, so I loved watching him try and deal with Levi's almost impossible guard. So I learned a lot as I loved it. But I love I'm a wrestler, so I love the Andrew Tackett also. So
it's all cool, man. All of it.
It was all cool, dude. But the CJI with all that on the line was amazing. And Cade Rotolo and Andrew Tackett. What's great about that? I mean, think about this. Is that, you're talking about the greatest jiu-jitsu match that ever, in my opinion, ever happened. And I've watched so much jiu-jitsu dating back, to Kimura versus Gracie, 1950s. I've seen everything and commentated for EBI and all that. What I find so great is that you have two people who were not Brazilian, two athletes.
Yeah.
The end of Brazilian dominance in jiu-jitsu, it is over. It's over. It is now, you had two Americans, right? It is an American sport now, and it is no gi. The gi is dead. I'll say it right now. The gi is dead, and it is on its deathbed. We haven't buried it yet, but you might as well bury it. And Brazilian dominance in jiu-jitsu is finito. It's over, man. Americans and I told people this a year or two ago. Americans take over everything. That's what we do. We're like, give it to us. We're going to take it over
and make it better.
And we're going to make it better. And that's what has happened. So you're looking at Gordon Ryan, won ADCC, all that. Nicky Rod, won the
$1 million, man. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
And Cade Rotolo, and Andrew Tackett, the greatest match. And so it's over. What is there, from now on, it's just, and what has America done? America has said for the past 25 years, this Brazilian thing, bring it over here and teach us. We don't what I love about American, I realized this when I went to it. I lived in Italy. In Italy, one of the things with Italians is they're very stubborn, right? And they don't.
Sure.
This is what I got out of it: is they're like, no, no,
Set
no,
in their
no, no,
ways.
no. We don't need help. We don't need any. Americans aren't like that. We're
Yeah.
like,
Give me an edge. Show me.
come,
What can I
come,
do?
give me this edge. And
Yep.
so we said, yeah, bring us this mixed martial arts. Let us check this out. Then it became bought by an American company and it exploded, not
Yep.
under Brazilian
Nope.
control, under American control by
Yeah.
American entrepreneurs. And what
Yeah.
has happened with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? We
Same thing.
said, okay, come to America and start teaching us. Really, it wasn't in the 90s. It was really in the early 2000s, mid 2000. 2012 is when AOJ opened, but it was a little bit before then. But that's when it really blew up. And what have the Brazilians been doing? They've been teaching Americans.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now the Americans are dominating. You've taught the Americans, and now the Americans are dominating.
It's
And
pretty
so
cool, man.
that trend is only going to continue, in my opinion. And that's
And
why we're getting away from the gi. You don't see
Oh,
any
yeah.
of these competitions in the gi. No one gives a shit.
No. It's not as
It's over.
dynamic. I mean, listen, I like training the gi. I trained in the gi this morning
Me too.
before we did
Me
this.
too.
And I enjoy it. But as far as like when you're talking about a spectator sport, you know what I mean? It's way too complex. It's way too nuanced for like the general public. But you look at a match like Tackett and Rotolo, you know what I mean? These two guys going to war, flying all over the fucking place. I mean, that's entertaining. That's entertaining. And you're not going to get that. You're not going to in gi.
When I was back in Newport, I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago, and training at AOJ, and there was the IBJJF put on the Grand Prix, and it was this deal where there were a bunch of matches in the gi, like Tynan's All Pro. A bunch of guys from AOJ went, and we were there for like 2 hours, and we got up and left. And I'm a black belt in the gi. I compete in every belt, So
Yeah.
for me, for us, and I'm with a couple other black belts, we're like, dude, let's get out of here, man. This is boring.
Yeah.
For us, if you're a black belt and you're saying the highest level of gi competition is boring, then dude, the sport sucks. And so I enjoy it,
Yeah.
I still train it, but I don't train it like I used to train it, and I doubt
Yeah.
I'll ever compete in the gi. I love no gi.
I only compete no gi. I competed I competed in gi only at white belt, but since I've never competed again in the gi since white belt.
I haven't competed in black belt. I've competed in every major tournament. I won at every belt. I've won a major tournament in the gi, but I haven't yet in black belt. I want to compete one time at Worlds in the gi. And so, maybe next year. It's coming up in a week, next week, and I haven't yet, but maybe I will. I'd like to.
Yeah,
I like it. I enjoy training it, like you said.
Yeah. My professor is going to do Worlds next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. You gonna watch?
Unit. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I know. I'm going to watch, yeah. I got a bunch of friends, so it'll be cool. I'm stoked, man. So what's going on, man? What you been watching anything or digesting anything or eating anything?
I've been just kind of like, I have so much shit going on right now. Like I'm doing so many things, but I'm kind of in a rhythm. I'm kind of in a flow, and like it's all kind of moving forward. So I really haven't been getting much. Like it's funny you talking about competing. Like I was thinking about maybe like jumping into something, but then I was like, you know what, man, you can't fight a battle on every single front. You're not you're not competing right now. Maybe next year and things slow down.
I think I'm gonna do Nogi Worlds in December, and then because for me, what I'm doing, I'm in London right now. I'm going back to Miami.
Exactly.
I'm getting all my shit in Miami and moving back up to Northwest Florida, and working on the development. It's just so busy that they need me up there. So I'll be up there, and hopefully I'm gonna build a studio.
Yeah, man.
And I'll be all this madness with my backdrops, or like you were saying, I'm very London right now. But yeah, it'll be cool to get a little more established and get my amp.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be exciting. That's exciting. I love shit like that.
Yeah.
We were talking the other day about doing an event, a retreat thing. I'm going back to DR September 15th, and I'll be there for a week. And I'm gonna go to that place where I think we might be able to do something. I'm gonna get some information.
Okay, cool. These guys, we could do it in conjunction with them, or we could do, there's a leg lock camp in Europe. If anybody is interested in leg lock camps, they contacted me and wanted me to go to Poland. I was going to go to Poland. And then there's a big Polaris event here in London where the guys from AOJ, the team from AOJ, a bunch of them are going to be competing in super fights. And that'll be on UFC Fight Pass. But I can't. I'm too busy. I got to get back to Miami and get all my shit and get going. So, but otherwise, yeah, maybe we'll do like a leg lock camp with them, or we'll just do it separately. But yeah, let's do something in the Dominican Republic. Dude, we got to do something in the Dominican Republic like in January when it's cold and it's time to get the hell out of the winter.
Yeah, for
right?
Sure. For sure.
All right.
Yeah, I'll have some info when I get back.
All right. Well, this has been awesome, bro.
Always,
good talking to you,
Always.
man. We will do it next week, and next week I might be up in North Florida by next week, so that's the goal.